Hi everyone, welcome this evening to Awareness to Action, 5 Steps to Overcome Stress. We're happy to have you with us this evening. If you could write in the chat and let us know where you're from, we'll be getting started in a few minutes. Thank you.
See you all is here. Hi, Richard. I know you can't answer back. Yeah, just so everybody knows, we can't see you. We can only see names as they're coming in. But we're really happy to have you here tonight. And we've noticed that it takes a couple of minutes for everybody to kind of get into the room. So I'll just keep saying hello and welcome. We've had such an amazing week, Sharon. It's just, it's really exciting to see the number of people who've been attending the webinars and getting so much from it. A lot of activity in the chat box. So
they have been very inspiring.
Yeah, yeah, it's really great. Cindy and Judy and Karen, Megan, good to see you. Sheila, Tasha. Hi, Tom, Wendy. Great to see you all. And if you would be so kind as to put in the chat box what town you're in, and that way we'll know also if you're. Oh, Wendy's from Texas. I didn't know that, Wendy. You've been really participating a lot this week. Westport and Stanford. My buddy Tom is in Chicago. Great to have you tonight. All right, Sharon, why don't we get started? It takes a little bit to do the intro and everything, so. I have to share one little chat. Richard says, Monica, this is our, it's personal note, but I'll say it anyway because I love you already, Richard, and I don't even know you, but it's our 8th connection in 1 week. He's been on everything so far. So you get.
You know, he's been on every single one that I posted, so that's great. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Sharon Jacobson, and I'm thrilled to be hosting Awareness to Action, 5 Steps to Overcome Stress, today with Monica Leggett. The Connecticut chapter of the International Coaching Federation is excited to offer today's terrific workshop as part of Raise the Bar webinar, 5 Themes, 5 Days of Learning. It's a free series of webinars that bridge together individual professional coaches representing a wide variety of coaching specialization as part of International Coaching Week. During this week, members worldwide celebrate the power of professional coaching to positively impact individuals, organizations, communities, and the world. These webinars will run through this Friday. The schedule of the remaining offerings can be found on our website, ICF-CT.org. We hope you'll join us for another one this week. Some housekeeping updates. For those of you who have not used Zoom before or are not that well known with Zoom, I want to share that what we will be doing is Monica and I, as she mentioned, will be speaking and you can see us. We're not going to be able to see or hear any of you, but what we'd like you to do is participate through the toolbar there. And I'll take a moment and explain some of the different icons. We'll be dealing with the Q&A. If you click on the Q&A, you'll see it's an opportunity to write a question, and we'll be checking that frequently throughout the presentation today. The next thing is the chat, and some of you have been using it already today. We'll be working with the chat regularly throughout today's presentation. The other thing we'll be doing is we'll be using the poll, and I know you don't have an icon for it, but what I will do is I will put up a poll, and you'll have to pick an answer and then just put submit, and we'll be able to see results with the 3 polls we'll be offering this evening. Okay, now a little bit about Monica. Monica is the current president of the Connecticut chapter of the International Coaching Federation. She is a professional certified coach and has been working with individuals, couples, and teams for over 12 years on everything from entrepreneur business building and management to life and relationship issues. Sometimes called a goal accelerator and a conversation whisperer, Monica's clients learn strategies and tools to gain clarity and motivation to achieve their goals and become leaders in their own life. She also helps them address the things that they are avoiding, from difficult decisions to difficult conversations. Monica is the author of a Kindle book on overcoming stress, tension, overwhelm, and procrastination, and is happy to bring much of that book to life in this webinar. Please welcome Monica Leggett.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, that line about helping people to overcome things that they're avoiding and difficult decisions and difficult conversations. I've gotten good at that because I was so good at it. Now I can coach others, which I think is the case for a lot of coaches. We find people similar to us and then figure out ways that we can help. So awareness to action. I'm just struck by the picture that I chose. This is actually on my website. And I think, you know, even a month ago, I was supposed to be in South Carolina for a big family gathering, and we couldn't go. It was the first time I was going to see all of my siblings at one time in about 10 years. I'm from a very large family. So there's a lot of stress going on right now. This book was written 3 years ago. This webinar was created months before the pandemic ever happened. And but it's the circumstances right now that we are feeling a little bit more stressed out. It's completely normal. So my goal tonight is to really help you learn some ways to notice what's going on and a specific tool that's going to help you regain control for sure. So under normal circumstances, what does your day look like? You know, do you wake up and, I got a lot going on today, or do you even lose sleep already? So the very first thing I'm gonna do is ask you to take a little poll. Prior to January, what was your typical level of stress? When there was nothing, you know, specifically terrible going on, it was just a normal everyday work week or whatever. Sharon, can you launch that poll? And I'm going to ask you to just on a scale of 1 to 10, pick a number that was what you would typically have felt prior to now. Seeing a nice range. I'm luckily not seeing too many 9s and 10s. That's great. Wait another few more seconds. All right, last chance to submit. All right. So, is everybody seeing the results there? Here we go. So there was a tie between, so somewhere between 5 and 8 was the typical response, which you might say feels high, or you might say, wow, that's pretty good. I'm glad to see there are some 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s as well. So now of course, our whole world changed, and we have gone into a different world. A lot of other things that are going on right now. So maybe what you feel like right now might be this. What might you be feeling during the pandemic? And what I realized is that it's actually come on in waves. You know, that first reaction, like, oh my God, there's a terrible thing going on over in China. And then it was like, oh, it's coming here. It's in Seattle. Oh, those poor people who are getting sick in the nursing home. And then we find out that it's all over the country and that schools have closed, you know, businesses have closed. Everybody's at home. So it's been waves and waves of defining this new normal. And it is pretty scary. And we're actually now, what is it, 6 or 7 weeks in since about St. Patrick's Day. And maybe our systems are starting to calm down a little bit and getting used to things. But let's launch the next poll. What was your highest peak of stress in this last week? And what was your lowest? So you're going to see 2 questions with this poll. What was the highest level of stress in the last week? And what was your lowest level? You might have to scroll down a little bit to get to that second question. All right, I'm starting to see some answers coming in. Give it a few more seconds. I am seeing some 9s and 10s. Not surprising. All right, so I think everybody can see the results. So yeah, the 9s and 10s that were 0 before, now we're seeing 29% and 29% in the 3 to 4 range. Interesting. And then 21. So it's interesting how that landed. I think we've gotten pretty good at managing our stress, maybe. I mean, for some people, it's gotten much worse, and then some people are starting to figure this whole thing out. As far as the lowest level of stress, glad to see some 1s and 2s. That's great. Let me just jot these down so I have them to reference. 36% in the 3 to 4 and the 5 to 6. Great. Great to see some of those numbers going down. So I think it's important every once in a while to sort of check in and how are you feeling about your whole body? What's going on with you? How is your stress level? And is there anything you can do about it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to give you some tools. So let's get back to this lovely picture out west somewhere in the mountains. And the first thing I want you to do is just sit and relax in your chair for a moment and plant your feet on the ground. And I want you to imagine that you're on this dock. And maybe you can hear some birds chirping in the distance. I want you to do some slow, deep breathing. Imagine that view that you've got of those mountains in the distance. And maybe you can feel the sun shining on your face. Just keep up some slow, deep breathing. And after 30 seconds to a minute, if you do this every once in a while, I want you to check in, and maybe in the chat box you can say, do you feel a little bit calmer right now? Yes, I feel calmer. No, I don't feel any different. After just taking those few moments to slow your system down and do some slow breathing. And the visualizing, whether it's this being on this dock, or maybe you're imagining your favorite trip somewhere, or picturing a place that you plan to travel to. So yeah, it's hopefully you are feeling a little bit better. And somebody wants to go fishing. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I think Judy, you said that you're a camper too, right? So so let's, when you do an exercise like that and you are able to get a little bit more grounded and a little bit more calm, you're actually letting your whole body calm down and you're allowing your brain to function better. And I'm not going to get into the whole neuroscience of it. I'm certainly not an expert in that. But I do know that if I notice I am all stressed out about something and I just take a pause and I imagine this, or I do some breathing, I can feel my system calming down. So let's, I want to talk a little bit about something that I coined a phrase a few years back called the stop syndrome. When you're feeling stuck, you're overwhelmed, you're anxious, maybe you're like in complete procrastination mode, you're not getting anything done. And I noticed that stress, tension, overwhelm, and procrastination often kind of live together. And so the stop syndrome to me means I'm not doing what I want to be doing, I'm not feeling great about myself and maybe feeling anxious. And maybe one is feeding the other. I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed. I have way too much to do and not enough time to do it. And now I get stuck and I freeze and I don't do anything. Or maybe I snap at my husband or my kids, or I take it out on the wrong person. So all these kind of live together: stress, tension, overwhelm, and procrastination. And when you have a syndrome like that, it's a group of symptoms that consistently occur together. And to cure a syndrome, you can't pick just one symptom and try to fix it. You know, if I said, well, I'm losing sleep. Well, okay, I'm only going to focus on the fact that I can't get any sleep. But you might be missing the deeper cause of why you're not getting any sleep, right? So you need to address the deeper cause in order to alleviate the symptoms. So as I was preparing this years ago, I was doing a Google search and I came up with lots of things that you can do to manage stress. And one of the, you know, a series of them have to do with that inner state that I was talking about. So you can do the deep breathing, you can do meditation, you can do yoga, you can get some exercise. And this first one I wrote here was treating your body better. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating healthy? Are you finding time to relax and build some fun in? Or are you kind of a workaholic? I think with all of this work from home and sharing space with other people, it's hard to delineate between work time and free time. You know, if you've spent 30 years traveling to an office or something, and you always had that transition time between office and home, and now you've lost that transition time. So things to help that inner state. It could be just, so you pull in the driveway, you take a 10-minute walk, and then you come in the door. So maybe now you're finishing whatever you're doing for the day, you're putting your computer away, your papers away, and hey, let's go take a walk. I've found my husband and I doing that quite a bit. So other strategies that I saw were things about, oh, you just need better time management. You can feel a lot better if you have good time management. Or learning to say no. You know, I love boundaries and expectations. Those are important. You can also limit your exposure to the doom and gloom. I don't know about you, but I probably watched a lot more news than I needed to the first month and a half, and I have started to tone it down. And just my body can't take it anymore. My system can't take it anymore. So there are a lot of great strategies that we can do to manage our stress, but they don't necessarily get to the deeper cause. Another thing that I've learned over the years of my coach training and the reading I've done and all that is your mindset can mean just about everything when it comes to stress. So what is your mindset when you're feeling negative or anxious or stuck? And typically, if you're in that negative mindset, you're more of what David Emerald would call a victim mindset. You're focusing on the problem. You're resisting reality, like, why do we have to be going through this? This is terrible. You know, I should be able to go to the store without a mask on. Well, you're resisting reality. You feel out of control because everything is different from what you're used to. You might be waiting or hoping or expecting someone else to fix things. And all of this is going to increase your stress. And if it's something at work, if you're working on a project, and someone is supposed to be sending you information so you can do your thing and then pass it on to the next. Well, if this person is always late, it always makes you late. And if you're always just angry at that other person, but you never have the conversation, then you're always going to be stuck being late. So the creator mindset would allow you to think about and focus on the outcome. So if you're focusing on the outcome, you might say, gee, I really need to talk to Joe because he needs to understand that every time he sends me stuff late, I can't get my work done in order to get it on. So I'm going to focus on the fact that I need to set better boundaries. I need to have those conversations. Maybe it needs to be a little reminder that I send to them. And I'm automatically more into a problem-solving mindset. I can accept reality. I'm accepting others for who they are. And I feel more empowered to act. I also am able to see what's within my control and what's not within my control. If Joe is late because there's someone else behind him that's always late, then you're talking about a whole system-wide, you have to get into a little bit wider probe of possibilities. But being in that creator mindset is so important. And the biggest difference between these two mindsets is whether you're focusing on the problem or focusing on the outcomes that you want. So whatever mindset you're in, if I'm in a creator mindset and something happens, I'm like this match on the left. So maybe I'll burn a little bit. It'll burn out, and then everything is fine. I notice something that annoys me, and maybe I say something to my husband or whatever's annoying me. I just say it, and it's gone. But if I'm in a really negative mindset, I might be like that bundle of matches. And now that one little thing, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. And now I've got an explosion going on. So depending on if your mindset is like the foundation of a house, if your mindset is in a good place, then the house is going to be strong. But if your mindset is really unstable, then your whole structure is going to be unstable. So the balancing act between stress and health. Now, I'm sure everybody's heard of cortisol. You know, it's a bad thing. We get under stress, and now our body floods us with cortisol and adrenaline and all that. You know, in the animal kingdom, they get cortisol and adrenaline too, but as soon as the danger is over, their body calms down. Unfortunately, in our system, there's always something to be stressed out about. There's always something that's getting us off balance and having that cortisol release. So we need to find that balance between the negative chemicals and the positive ones, things like serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine and endorphins. And how do we get those that are going to help balance that out and be healthier? Well, I can just think of an example from me for the last week, and maybe you could throw in some examples in the chat box. Is there anything you know that's going to increase those things, oxytocin, dopamine? Do you exercise? We get a shot of dopamine every time we complete something. You know, how many times have you written a list of things and you do something that wasn't even on the list, but you write it in anyway just so you can cross it off? I mean, I'd say raise your hand, but I can't see you guys. But completing things, that's going to give you dopamine. Endorphins from there's oxytocin when you're connecting with people. So right now I'm just, you know, I can only see a picture of myself. I can't see you guys. I see some activity in the chat box. Is there anything there, Sharon?
Yeah, so Wendy is saying laugh to increase good chemicals.
Right.
Anything that generates one of the positive emotions will shift chemicals.
Right.
Judy wrote that, and Richard said cortisol only temporal.
Yeah, yeah. And I said, you know, I'm no expert in all of this, but I do know the basics that if, even a week ago, I've had waves of feelings of, you know, lethargy or a little bit of, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but there have been times when I was like, why am I even getting up in the morning? And then if I get myself to do something like that thing that I can cross off the list, if I can do one little thing to get my body in motion, I feel better. So it's really important to watch those things. Okay, so if you are chatting in the chat box, try to click on to panelists and attendees, and that way everybody will see what you're writing. So let's look for some examples in everyday life of what's going on and how things are different right now. If you're working from home, or if your job disappeared, there's a huge stressor right there. But if you're working from home and you're also homeschooling, I have all three of my kids I have 8 grandkids, so they're all, you know, the teachers right now. Or you feel out of touch with your community. I had a meeting this morning with my chamber group, and we're meeting on Zoom and like high-fiving and stuff, just trying to stay connected as a community. If you're unable to separate your work from your personal life, I know, well, it's also, this has been a really big week. We've got so much going on, but I've definitely worked a lot more than I normally do. And I've had to consciously say, okay, I'm taking Saturday off. I'm not doing anything. I need that break. So when all of these things are going on and tensions are rising, our stress level affects how we are in our relationships with each other. And then other examples are working outside the house and you're fearful for your health. You don't want to get sick. Or you're not working because of the pandemic. Or maybe you're worried about your elderly parents. I know my in-laws live right down the street and they're 88 years old. And, we're like really careful. Like the grandkids should not be visiting them. They shouldn't. My mother-in-law wants to grocery shop and she really should not be out and about. So we worry about a lot of other things. And then when we have all of this tension, think of it like your cup is full of stress and one more thing, and now you're overflowing. So every stimulus is going to lead to a response. And it's that interpretation between the stimulus and your reaction that depends on whether you're going to go into fight or flight, right? If you're already stressed out, you are much more likely to go into fight or flight. If you are calm and your body is calm and you've been doing your yoga daily, or maybe you're journaling, or maybe you've kept the TV off and you're just doing your thing and you're staying strong and you're keeping a positive mindset, then some little annoying thing is not going to set you off. I'd love to see in the chat box if anyone has done anything out of character for themselves. I know about 2 weeks ago, I had kind of hit my limit in terms of, we're sharing space here. My husband was taking over the kitchen and his computer was set up and he had a cable to the router because he needed to be landlocked. And every time I went out to the kitchen, if I wanted to microwave a tea or if I wanted to do something, and he'd be on a conference call and he'd be like, shh. And I'm like, ah. And I finally kind of lost it. And because I am one of those people that doesn't like to make waves, I internalized it. And then I was grouchy for days. And, we finally talked about it. And he's now working from upstairs in our bedroom. So we figured it out. So what happens in the seconds between the stimulus and the response is this whole cascade. Our thoughts affect our feelings, and our default habits affect us, and our attitude affects us. And it all leads to the reaction that we have. If I was thinking to myself, why does he have to take up the whole kitchen? And why is he doing this? He knows that he's room upstairs. All of that's going to be feeding my reaction and my response. And the truth is, he gets up really, really early. And if he were to set up in the office upstairs is our bedroom. And that would be keeping me awake at 6 o'clock in the morning. So he was being the kind person setting up in the kitchen. So he actually sets up twice a day, down in the kitchen early in the morning, and then he goes upstairs. So I have to appreciate the fact. So that's like that shift, that reframing of a problem. So it really all does begin with our thoughts. And how can you retrain yourself to respond differently? And it really does, it begins with our thoughts. So this is just some examples of how our thoughts can get us into different kinds of feelings. If I think, oh, I have so much to do and not enough time to do it, I'm going to be in worry or panic. I will probably be in overwhelm and I will kind of get stuck in like, what do I start with first? Which is that not sure where to start. So now I'm in confusion. Or if I'm thinking, this is so hard. Like, how many of you thought, I have to stay inside and not go anywhere for 7 weeks? I'm going to go crazy. And if I start there, I'm not going to be in a good place. Why is this all happening to me at once? Or he shouldn't have done that. So whatever your thoughts are, they aren't necessarily about the pandemic, I know, but our thoughts really do affect our feelings. So now our feelings, we're feeling stuck, we're feeling out of control, we're feeling irritable and triggered, we're distracted, we're anxious, maybe we're feeling shame or guilt, when we fly off the handle and get angry, now we feel shamed, or shame or guilt when we can't get stuff done. It's funny, one of my clients talks about, today is a bunny slipper day. And it's basically just having self-compassion, and more people are needing to have sort of bunny slipper days where you say, you know what, I'm only going to be at about 50% today. I'll get through some emails. I'll do this one thing that I know I have to do. And I'm just going to take care of myself. And I'm not going to have that driver mindset going.
Monica, Richard wrote
Sure.
down, write a gratitude list.
Yes, yes, there are so many things you can do. Yep, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute. So thank you, Richard. Um, when you are feeling any of these ways, there are many things you can do to turn it around, and we're going to talk about that. So our thoughts affect our feelings, which then affect our actions. And as I said, if you feel triggered, it's not just fight or flight these days. People say fight, flight, freeze, or appease. And I believe that most of us have one default that we tend to go to of those four. You know, some people are like a fighter. They'll immediately snap or get angry or sort of take over territory and be more aggressive. Flight might look like you're avoiding or giving up. Freezing, I definitely am a freezer. I will just like, I don't even know where to start. And then the appeasing, who, you know, they'll say anything to avoid conflict. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just it's a natural way that we can be wired, and we may not even notice that we're doing it. So it may be hard to focus or do our best work. We might choose the easier mind-numbing actions. All right, so here's a good one for the chat box. Share one thing that you've been doing more of as a mind number. And it could be, I do puzzles. I've done a 2,000 puzzle last week, a 1,000 piece puzzle. You know, the weekend before, I've done probably 4 or 5 puzzles. So what are you guys doing as mind-numbing activities? Maybe you're binge watching TV. Maybe you're choosing something healthy. Maybe you're getting more exercise, but mind-numbing in a negative way, I guess, is what I'm curious about. What are we seeing? Any answers in there?
Wendy says color. That's the only thing I see right
you
now.
have those coloring books. Yeah.
More walking.
Well, that's good.
Binge watching shows I never had time to watch.
Yeah.
I've been doing puzzles too, not as difficult.
I'm kind of famous for my 5,000 piece puzzle that I have hanging up in my office. I love puzzles.
Listen to good shows on NPR, go up and down the stairs, Netflix. And
you know, mind numbing is good to some extent. It's where it gets, and this is, I talk about this in my big class. I do a whole 6-part series, and we talk about time management in it. So when I need to just relax and I'm just going to work on my puzzle, that's fine. But if I'm doing my puzzle during the day and I'm not getting any work done, or if I'm just going to watch some YouTube videos, and 3 hours later you're realizing that you're still watching YouTube videos, that's when you know it's getting into the totally unproductive and not self-care time, you know? So, and unfortunately, some people get into the mind numbing also of either, alcohol or drugs or other things. So our actions are all of a result of that cascade of our thoughts affect our feelings, affect our actions. And maybe we're losing sleep or we have low energy as well. So let's keep going here. How does the stop syndrome affect our results? Now, as a coach, I'm often coaching people about results. They want certain outcomes. They want to get a certain place. And if they're not getting those results, we kind of do these steps back. We go back to, well, what's been going on that's leading to those results, right? So if our performance goes down, if we're numbing out with the time wasters, if we have irritated relationships, if our health is suffering, it is as a result of that beginning step. We're probably focusing on the problem too much, and our thoughts are in a really negative place. So the health results, I mean, everybody knows that stress is one of the greatest causes of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, depression, anxiety. And so we really need to watch out for that. So there's the pattern. And I don't remember where I saw this the first time. I've probably seen it so many times I couldn't even tell you. But and sometimes I see this, beliefs lead to our thoughts. And a lot of coaches will talk about, do you have any limiting beliefs? I'll give you an easy one. If I have an appointment, let's say I'm coaching and I've got somebody at 9 and somebody at noon and 1 and 2, and I've got a couple hours in between there, and I don't know what I'm doing for dinner yet. Well, I used to always think, well, I don't have time to get to the store. And I started challenging my limiting beliefs. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the store. It'll take me 20 minutes. I'll come home and then I can figure out what I'm going to do for dinner. So when I'm done with my coaching, I can have, you know, my dinner plan. But it all had to do with starting with my thoughts. That may not be the best example when it comes to stress, but that's really where our stressful thoughts start. I can't do this. I know. I will give one example when I show my tool. And look at that, perfect timing. So there was a time about 3 years ago that I was asked to be part of a summit, and this is where a lot of this work came from. My one thing was about being proactive, and I created a webinar, and it turned into a book, and I created this boot camp kind of thing. And at the same time, I was working on something else that had nothing to do with my business. It was something, a voluntary role. And I was really stuck because I was feeling like, oh, time is not my friend. I have so many things to do. I don't know which to work on, this project or this project. And I was ironically stressed, overwhelmed, and procrastinating. And I don't think I was too much, I'm pretty good with the relationship thing. But the other three were really looming large. And the ironic thing was I was writing, you know, the Stop Syndrome book. So here I was living what I was trying to write about. And I decided, and I'll show you, oh, I forgot I was going to do a poll. I'll leave you hanging there and let's do the poll. If you think of an outcome you'd like to see this year, what area of your life might it be in? If maybe there's something to do with your career or your home. I've heard a lot of people who are, you know, doing a big spring cleaning with all this time on their hands, which I don't seem to have. Or maybe you want to work on some time management. So Sharon, can you launch the poll? And we'll see which area of your life might you want to improve an outcome. And then I'll tell the rest of my story. All right, I see the votes coming in. When Judy and I were offering the how coaching can benefit you, we had a lot of people saying they wanted to work on their career or business. Tonight, I'm seeing more personal or professional development. Okay, 5 more seconds here. Hit submit. All right. So I think we can see all of them. So personal professional development. That'll be a good one to play with. So if you want to work on personal professional development, we're gonna play with that example. And if someone could give me maybe in the chat box something specific that you'd like to do for professional development or personal development, that'd be great too. So let me tell the rest of my story, and then I will show you my tool. I was aware that I wasn't doing much of either of those things. I was kind of avoiding them and working on everything else, kind of hitting the easy button. Let me do the things that I know I could do easily, and I was avoiding these 2 projects. And I knew that it was stressing me out the more I was avoiding them. So I accepted the fact that I needed to work on something. And I decided, I also accepted that I couldn't give either of them up. They weren't something I could delegate. They were something I had to do. And I decided that I was going to pick one of the 2 projects, pick one step of the 2 projects, and I was going to specifically do it the next morning at 9 o'clock. So that was my aware, accept, my attitude or my mindset. I assessed what choices I wanted to make, and then I got into action. So I don't know if there are any suggestions for personal development, but if I'm aware that I need some, let's say, leadership tools. There are a lot of people who get coaching for leadership. Maybe you're not very good at delegating, or you've been told you're a bit of a micromanager, or maybe there's some 360 that you've gotten that you see some areas that you want to improve on. So you're aware, you're aware that you want to become a better leader. You want to focus on what are those things that I can go forward on and achieve, rather than what I'm not good at. So if I'm micromanaging too much, then the opposite of that would be to delegate more and to allow people, trust them to take care of things. I might look at my habits. Do I tend to be a bit of a rescuer or a micromanager? Do I need to learn to step back? So aware is a really huge step. You need to spend a lot of time on the awareness part. And for someone, even if someone's trying to lose weight, be aware of how many times you're running to the refrigerator now that we're home all day. Be aware of, are you keeping good, healthy food in your house? Or are you aware, I certainly am aware at night when I'm watching TV, I'm always eating when I'm watching TV. So I need to break that habit, right? So aware is really important. And also thinking about, what are my strengths to help me solve this? Well, I'll give a few examples as we go along. But our personality type, our interpersonal relationship skills, there are a lot of different limiting beliefs, distorted beliefs. There are a lot of things that you're going to find when you really ask enough awareness questions. Then the second step is about acceptance. And I think this is one of the first big shifts, because when you accept reality for what it is, accept other people for who they are, accept what's within your control and what's not within your control, you really start to see what you need to focus on and stop trying to imagine that the world was better right now, that, you know, I didn't have to wear a mask wherever I went. I'm just going to accept the certain limitations that I have. And accept that I'm in control. I get to decide how I'm going to choose to spend my time. We all get the same 24 hours a day. I accept what I'm going to work on. I came up with this little acronym at ADD, which is, you know, ironic because ADD, if I address and delegate or dismiss rather than my attention deficit disorder, there are a lot of people who, like me, you know, I get easily distracted by that next shiny object. And it's like I have ADD, but really, if I just bring in my focus and either address it or delegate it or dismiss it, decide and prioritize. So those are some of the things about acceptance. The third A, and I should say that I created this tool with a friend of mine, Anna Cole. We went through coaching school together about 12 years ago. We kept finding all these great A words. We were creating a workshop. And the one A we had left out was attitude. And I know attitude sometimes has a negative attitude to it, but it's your perspective or your mindset. And is there an attitude that's accelerating or causing the stress? Like, oh, this is going to be so hard, or why did I even take that job? Or is there an attitude that will give me a better perspective? And this is something that a coach can really help you with. I have a lot of fun with my clients doing something called a perspective wheel. And we look for, what is the perspective that I can be in that is really going to help me in this particular challenge or issue that I'm dealing with. If I'm in a perspective of worry, you know, worry is using your imagination to create something you don't want. So let's not worry. Let's just focus on what it is that we want and what we have control over. So finding the right attitude is the grounding force to shift your energy. The fourth A, is to assess all your options. So when I was trying to decide between those two projects and how to sort of get moving, I was assessing, first of all, which one am I going to focus on or prioritize first? And then I was assessing which step would really help move me forward. What's the best use of my time right now? And I picked one project and I ended up doing it the next day. Sometimes assessing is really quick, and sometimes you need to really brainstorm, as I say, without the edit button. If I'm trying to decide, let's say I'm creating another workshop, well, what possible topics could I work on? Or who might be my target market? If I'm working on leadership skills, to get back to that professional development idea, what new things do I want to get good at? Or what possible courses could I take? Or could I work with a coach? What are some of the options to get me to be a better leader? Maybe there's a mentor I want to work with. So assessing your options is where you get to look at what is possible. And then at some point you choose what is the thing that I'm going to do. And then you commit to the process. And this is also where coaching really helps, because having that sounding board to work with is really, really helpful. I know I've really enjoyed having a coach for years. Then the last step is action. And if you're in a positive attitude and you believe in yourself and you have clarity and confidence and commitment, it's a lot easier to take action. And so all of that work that comes to lead up to you taking action. And hopefully this is a helpful tool that you'll be able to use in the future. So success happens when what you think and what you say and what you do are all in sync around the values and goals that you hold dear. When you know what you want and you're working toward those things, it's a really great feeling. And you can keep that gratitude journal, as Richard said. If I am assessing what are the things that help me feel better, what can I do to increase my oxytocin and my dopamine and all those good feel good hormones, I could make a whole list, and everything from meditation or exercise or gratitude journal or reaching out to a friend. I've been connecting a lot more with people, and all of those things are helping me stay strong and feel good. And then I have to take action. It's not good if you just write the list and never do any of them. So this is what it looks like. It's a cyclical kind of thing, because you enter at awareness, oh, I need to do something. And then you work your way through all 5. And then maybe even you might be at assess, and you're like, oh, I've got this new idea, and maybe I need to tweak things a little bit. So now I have a new awareness, and I'm going to start at the beginning again. So you might go through the cycle several times. And I will tell you that when I worked on those 2 projects and I got the one thing done, had a great day, and I went to sleep. And the next morning I woke up absolutely on fire. I literally had to run to my cabinet and pull out a bunch of index cards. And I wrote almost my whole book in about half an hour, because all of the thing that had been clogging me up was this tension between the 2 projects. And I took care of one, just got it moving down the line a little bit. And then this whole other one opened up tremendously. So I was back functioning in my good brain. So I've got just a few summary slides. I can kind of skim over this one. When you learn something new, you don't know what you don't know. And eventually, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more you practice, you get through to conscious and confidence is, maybe you're still using your 5A sheet, like, oh, I know I should be doing that next thing. What was the next order? And then you go into conscious competence. And then eventually it's just unconscious competence. And you're just, you know it, and it's part of your bones. That's a great feeling. So 5 tips to respond differently to life's challenges. Name the issue that's causing you stress. Focus on the outcome you want and not the problem. Accept what you can't change and what you can do. Keep a positive mindset, or borrow one if you have to. I often say, is there a thought leader or a favorite character on a TV show? Like, if you could embody that character, what would she or he do right now? And sometimes you can just borrow that perspective. And then take action based on these empowered thoughts rather than your reactive thoughts. There's nothing worse than acting from a really bad place. Lots of bad things happen. So it's really better to make sure that you're in a good mindset before you do anything really important. So next steps. I just wanted to normalize. We're all feeling a lot of stress right now. And as we saw, our numbers are kind of high. And certainly our high levels of stress are much higher right now. But we can have those low levels of stress too. And it has to do with what choices you're making. You need self-care, using this 5A tool, and then reach out for help if you need it, whether it's a coach or a therapist or a friend or your buddy or your spouse or someone. I hope you are feeling a little bit stronger and you feel a little bit more empowered. So I don't know if there are any questions. Does anyone have any questions? I know I've been talking a lot. I wish I could see your faces.
Checking now.
Yeah. Okay. I know Tom said he felt less stress. I think that was after the breathing exercise. So I would like to say that I do have a handout. I am like a handout queen. I don't feel comfortable unless I have a handout to give out. And since I don't know you guys, if you want to just send me an email, you can send one to my email here, monica@newstepslifecoaching.com. And I will send you the handout with the 5 A's and the worksheet.
Monica, there is a question that's come through.
Sure.
What have you seen as a benefit of forming teams to work on stress?
Say that again, forming teams?
Yes, what have you seen as a benefit of forming teams to work on stress?
Well, so the thing that comes to mind is like if I'm getting into a, it's almost like a support group or an exercise group, or when you're in a team, it's like you're in this together and you have somebody else to talk to, maybe using the same language or talking about the same situation going on. I don't know if that is answering the question properly, but I know that when I've offered this course in a group with 4, 6, 8, 10 people, everyone feels like they are not alone. And when you have other people to talk to and throw back and forth some ideas or someone to brainstorm with, I think it really does help your stress for sure. As I said, I'm from a really large family, and we have started communicating on Discord. It's a little app on my phone. And, a sister in California and a brother in South Carolina, and we're all just chatting together. It's like we're in this together.
Another question, Monica, what percentage of your coaching is on stress with clients?
It's never the number one issue, but it always comes up. We all stress all the time, right? We have anxious thoughts about, oh, I wish this was better, or why can't I figure that out? So there are certain things that come up and get flushed out. And I use this tool. It's just one of the many tools that I offer in any given session, depending on what someone is coming to me with. So I wouldn't say that I'm only a stress coach, It's just something that probably because I needed to learn how to deal with stress. It all started, 12 years ago when my grown kids were starting to get married, and there were a lot of changes in relationship, and there was a big conflict, and it all became part of my, I guess, traumatic growth, So most of my clients are individuals. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. I work with some couples as well, and there's a lot of stress, like couples getting ready to get married, or so just learning to normalize it and finding new tools of way to deal with it.
Yeah, Monica, Judy says change usually kicks up stress, and coaching is all about making change.
Yeah. And I think about a lot of coaches will tell you that somewhere between like that 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th session, the more you're digging into the changes that you want to make, it can bring up a lot of stress. So this, it's like learning how to do anything before you need to learn it is really helpful. And as you're going through any kind of change, again, if you can focus on the outcome you want and just those baby steps. And as we get into that learning curve of getting outside our comfort zone or learning something new, give yourself time to get used to that next step before you jump to another one. So don't try to go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. Any other questions?
There are a lot of accolades for your workshop tonight, and folks feel it's time to reread your book.
Yeah, it's a whole 99 cents on Kindle. And let me tell you, if you go to Amazon, just look for my name because you'll never find the title. But it's a quick read, and I hope it's helpful, and I have some fun diagrams in there and some fun concepts. But also, if you want to go deeper, I do offer like a 4 or 5 session, and I go through specifically like a whole hour, just one class on stress, one on the tension, that's the relationship tension, one on overwhelm, and one on procrastination. And I have some tools on goal setting and time management and all that. So if you want to know more about the class that I do a little bit more in depth, I'd be happy to talk about that. So,
and lastly, Monica, Tom says, I have found that taking almost any action can alter the stress happening in the moment.
Yeah. And I think it's that little dopamine kick. I just learned that recently, that you do get a little dopamine kick every time you get something done. And yeah, it makes a big difference. So, well, I really enjoyed being with you guys tonight, and I know we've got such a big week. Some of you may have done the conflict one that I did on Monday. It was I equate conflict as like a campfire, and don't be the dry kindling. So if you manage your stress and you do those things that are the good feeling hormones, you're not going to be dry kindling. You're not going to snap when somebody looks at you cross-eyed, and you're not going to fall apart when some little thing happens. You'll just be that really healthy tree rather than dry kindling.
Thank you, Monica. Thanks for a great workshop tonight. Thank you all for joining. I just want to remind you, we have a couple of more days of workshops left at ICF-CT.org. Also, after this evening, there will be a recording of this workshop and also a survey for you all to take. So thank you all for joining. Be safe and have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks.